Hey, listen to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM 89.0. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey.
We got a hell of a lot to get through to cover War Games, Survivor Series Raw, and Smackdown. So we're just going to roll straight into it. War Games opens up Lars Sullivan, fairly dominant in his defeating of Cassius Ohno.
And not much you can say. Lars is clearly on his way for a major push, and Cassius Ohno is going nowhere.
It seems a lot like Cassius Ohno's first run, just sort of sitting there and not going anywhere. The difference is this time Lars Sullivan gets to beat up on him instead of other people. But there definitely was something there with Lars. It was just it, I guess is probably the best way to put it. Look forward to seeing what he's going to do in NXT in the future with this run of his. Next match, Aleister Black. He defeated the Velveteen Dream, but right after the match, he said his name.
Yeah, so they both kind of won. This was probably the match of the weekend, actually.
Yeah?
It was a really, really, really good match. It was the Velveteen Dream had his coming out and he impressed a lot of people. And Black is Black.
That's pretty much the way you can just put it at this point. Aleister Black, again, going to be a big thing. Let's just give him the time and he will be there. Some would argue he already is a big thing, but we'll have to wait and see where they're going with him next. There was a change further on in the card that may open up an extra possibility for him, but also interested to see where Velveteen Dream goes from here, since this was sort of his debut feud. I'd agree. I'd give it singles match of the weekend easily, but I love me some good gimmick matches. So the next one, Fatal 4-Way for the vacant NXT Women's Championship. Ember Moon defeated Kairi Sane, Nikki Cross, and absolutely robbed Peyton Royce of her title before being handed the championship by Asuka.
That was a neat moment. Ember got what she truly deserved, and it was a neat moment to see Asuka hand her the title, but you could tell she was a little miffed with her when she was trying to raise her hand in celebration, and Ember wasn't paying any attention to her.
Yeah, I don't think Ember was paying attention to anybody during that moment.
Completely understandable, though, but
made for a funny moment. At that whole point, I know it would make no sense because Asuka is up on the main roster, but it felt like the entire way through she could flip and just kick Ember in the head.
And it would have been Asuka's character too.
I almost thought she was going to refuse to hand over the title, but we don't need to be setting up anything between these lots, so it wouldn't really do all too much, which is all the more reason for them to decide to do it. But yeah, we'll see. I'm assuming after what happened on Raw and Smackdown, Peyton Royce and the Iconic Duo may soon be getting an opportunity at that title.
Yeah.
The NXT Championship, Andrade Cien Almas, new champion after defeating Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre, I believe, tore his bicep during the match. I don't know if there's word yet on whether that would require surgery.
This would be considered probably surprise of the weekend.
There was a point because the injury happened. Obviously, there was a point in it where I was a little like, was this the way it was meant to go, or did Drew get injured and they call an audible? But maybe they have a lot more faith in Cien Almas than I do. I like the guy, right? Like, don't get me wrong on that, but Drew did only just get it. I feel like Drew was going to run with it for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I didn't notice the injury, so it was just a surprising moment.
It was obvious after the match that something wasn't right with Drew. It's just the look of, like, that's however long I've now spent here down the drain, and I'm not going to see you all for another 4 to 6 months, or however long it's going to be out if it's surgery. It's like a look of defeat, more than you'd ever get just because you lost the title. It's just a pure look of defeat. But it shouldn't overshadow the fact that we do have a new champion, and thousands of possibilities with that.
Namely, Aleister Black.
Yep. I think Aleister definitely wins the most out of this.
It's also another option is Eric Young.
Yeah, it depends post the War Games match what exactly we want to do with everybody, but putting the title on CN does give us a couple of options that we didn't have before. I know Black is just coming off a feud and has been super hot as of lately. People still loving him. He's undefeated. It takes away the Undisputed Era potentially going after the title if Drew still had it. But does, as we said, open up that opportunity for Black and for the other one you said that I'm already forgetting, Eric Young, to have a go. And I wouldn't be surprised in either case. I'm having a quick skim of the roster, and they're the only two I can see in a quick rush. Yeah, I can't see anybody else here really. Though I wouldn't put it past a couple of weird surprise shots at it. Better go on to that main event, the War Games match itself, the Undisputed Era picking up the win after 36 minutes of hell.
That was insane.
Where do you start?
Yeah, that's the thing. The match began with the three captains, and it just was an absolute war. I think we finally answered the question, what is war good for? Because apparently that was.
Yeah, it was amazing between the lot. The match, like, perfect. Well, I'm not going to say perfect because Alexander Wolf's skull probably doesn't think it's perfect. Minor oversight.
Yeah, and Dane is currently digesting a key.
Yep. I'm really hoping it just went under the tongue and he slipped it out at some point, because that's not going to be fun.
I'm guessing there was probably a thread or something attached to the end of the key.
I'm hoping.
To allow for easy retrieval, the way a magic trick works.
But if we're going to talk about Dane, we have to talk about that coast to coast.
Yeah. Now Shane's not so special.
I've seen Killian do it. Much more impressive to see Killian do it.
Yeah, especially since he's like 350, 400.
I don't know what he's billed as, but it was insane. That's in kgs. Kgs aren't useful. 322 pounds or 146 kgs billed. That's like 2 Shane McMahons.
Yeah. Although Shane probably would have attempted to coast through the 2 rings, because you know how crazy he is.
Yep. He would have jumped off the top of the cage, over top of an entire ring, and then landed in the second ring.
Yeah.
He's a madman. That being said, the 9 men in this match were absolute madmen. They did everything. Amazing match between the lot of them. Everybody got a good showing. I can't find fault with it, other than Wolf's head. But that's for Wolf to deal with. It didn't bring down the match. The dude came back and took another move still. Big props to everyone there. Now let's not overuse this match type. Let's just put a full stop here. Maybe revisit in a year. We'll do a little bit of Survivor Series. We'll do the pre-show of Survivor Series before we get on to the song, just because we got so much to get through. Elias defeating Matt Hardy in a nothing match.
It was alright.
Elias still going strong, but still hasn't really picked up anything. He had a thing with Jason Jordan, he had a thing with Matt Hardy, still just sort of floating. Just floating.
Yeah, that's the symptom of all the main eventers and upper carders have all been busy. There's nobody been available for him.
Yeah. We'll wait and see what we end up doing with him. There is plenty of options. On Raw, I believe he had another match with Matt Hardy. I'm assuming he's going to get his part soon, but there's a lot going on Raw and SmackDown at the moment, so it's fairly easy to get lost in the shuffle at this point. Enzo Amore successfully defending his title against Kalisto.
It happened.
It happened, full stop. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn also defeated Breezango to make it look like they wouldn't come back.
When you all knew they would.
Yeah, it was obvious. Breezango on a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Pre-show, but still a pay-per-view. We'll play that song now, and when we get back, we'll do the main card of Survivor Series of Raw and SmackDown. There's a lot, believe me. Our theme this week is the Shield's theme. No particular reason.
Echo, Lima, Delta, Shield.
And you're back with the Wrestling Roundup. FreeFM 89.0, Grady and Josh. That was the Shield's theme. Now let's talk about the Shield defeating the New Day. Impressive match. 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was a really good match. I think the biggest thing though is I think we finally answered who the most dominant faction of the last 10 years is.
Mm-hmm. If there were any doubters.
Yeah. And then we further put an exclamation point on that on Raw.
You just want to talk about that now?
I don't know of any faction that's had two members that were Grand Slam champions, other than DX.
I can't think off the top of my head. But what you're alluding to here is that Roman Reigns won the Intercontinental Championship off of The Miz.
Yeah.
It is what it is. These three men are going to be the cornerstones of the WWE.
And Seth Rollins is only an Intercontinental Championship away from being a Grand Slam Championship champion himself.
Cross your fingers, it's happening soon.
Where my biggest question though from this match is, where does the New Day go from here? They don't really have anything to do now.
Well, you just want them to split up anyway, so it's nice and easy for you to get what you want.
It's not that I want them to split up. I just don't know what you can do with them now.
Yeah. It's definitely either the world's wide open or it's time for a change. And those are kind of your two options here. You can go and do something wild with them rather than just putting them in up against a couple tag teams, or it might be time. Even if it's less of a breakup and more of a see you later type situation.
That's what I would actually prefer. I wouldn't prefer a breakup. But that's not really WWE's style. So.
No. I think if it's gonna go, it's gonna be messy.
Oh, I missed it.
I had a quick look at the Grand Slam stuff. There's two different formats for the WWE. I don't know which one to believe, but the only ones here I can see that would be tag teams would be the sort of quick ones put together like Jericho and Showmiz and these guys. I don't think there's anyone who, other than Triple H and Shawn Michaels under the original format, stuck around for like a really long time.
Yeah, it's because they changed the format last year to allow for new Grand Slam champions, because there hadn't been any in 15 years because the United States Championship was never considered part of it.
And the European and Hardcore were impossible to pick up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll acknowledge both. I feel like they're both symptoms of their era. But we got to get on to the next match. We're going to run out of time. Team Raw defeating Team Smackdown in the Female Survivor Series match, with Asuka being the sole survivor.
Where do we begin?
Rip Becky. That's where we begin.
Yeah. So much for her pulling Asuka's arm off.
I don't think she even got to touch Asuka, did she?
Probably not.
But here's important news on Becky. The headline came out today. Shawn Michaels, former Intercontinental Champion The Miz, and recently attacked and lost really early in Survivor Series Becky Lynch are going to be in the Marine that is going to be filming soon, Marine 6 Close Quarters. So that could just be a way of she's not that important if she's heading off. Possibly an option.
Let's go in there. Let's go.
But when we're looking at this match as well, we've got the Nia Jax Tamina stare down. Gotta mention that.
Pop.
Yep. Full stop. That's pretty much all you got to say about that. And then Asuka, Sole Survivor, taking out 2v1 odds at the end. Pretty much as expected, I'd have to say. The first champion versus champion match, Baron Corbin defeats The Miz, and all is good with the world.
Yeah.
And then Miz lost his title shortly after.
Yeah.
I think this was the shortest of the champion v champions at 10 minutes. The other ones were pretty much all around 15 minutes. But it did what it needed to do, and Baron Corbin backed up all of his trash talk on Twitter.
Yep. I'm glad to see Corbin has come out on top in this situation and prepared to and hasn't really petered out on his push. That's a good thing. And Miz is Miz. Miz could have afforded the loss, so we all knew that was probably going to happen.
Yep. That also put the score, I believe, 2 for Raw, 1 for SmackDown. Then the Usos took out Cesaro and Sheamus.
Again. Here.
It happened. The Usos picked up the win. Decent back and forth match between the two, but nothing too much of note. I wasn't overly hype, but I think that's just because it's the whole weekend was just full of hype and awesome matches.
There's going to be some that just slip through the cracks.
And I think this was just a bit of a victim of that. This next match is going to spark a lot of Raw and SmackDown talk, so settle in, get in your chair. Charlotte Flair picked up the win, defeating Alexa Bliss via submission. First of all, the match.
The match was very good.
It was pretty much what everybody expected from the two. And when you knew Brock was going to beat Styles, you knew Charlotte had to beat Bliss. The math added up.
You knew when Charlotte won the title, she was going to beat Bliss.
Good point.
It didn't matter if in any of the other matches.
But the math. And then some people would ask, who's going to face Alexa Bliss next? Well, we got 3 answers to that. Well, really 1, but Paige ends up returning, bringing with her Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville.
I think we're getting ready for a female Royal Rumble.
What gave you that idea? Was it a return in 5 debuts? We're definitely pumping up the amount of females on the active rosters. And conspiracy theories are flying as well. With your pale punk rock person, your short blonde, and then your muscle. And if we jump over to SmackDown, who happened to debut over there? You got Ruby Riott leading Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan. Parallels can be drawn.
I think it would have been more fun if they showed up on both. If the same team had shown up on both shows. Because then you could have comparisons to the Shield.
Yeah. I don't know quite yet what we're going to be doing here. It seems like it was mirrored so perfectly. They interfered in the title match. They laid out the champion. The 3 teams are made up by people who look close enough alike, meet the same archetypes. They attacked people backstage. It's too identical to be a coincidence, surely. But are we giving WWE too much credit?
You're probably giving them too much credit.
Yep. SmackDown just copy-pasted Raw's homework.
It just changed it up so it didn't look exactly the same.
Yep. While we're talking about debuts, we might as well talk about it as well. Hideo Itami coming to 205 Live.
That's where he belongs.
People are going to disagree with you on that one.
I think most people would actually agree.
Okay. I think the dude's had hard luck so far. And it's just a case of, if it works for him, it works for him. Everything, as we've said before, is super crowded at the moment, so I think it would be a bit of a risk to do anything else. Like, you're going to be so worried people are going to get lost in the shuffle at this point.
People already are.
So there's no point bringing more people in. You know, the pool's already overflowing, take the hose out. And the last one, the Bludgeon Brothers, taking out the Hype Bros. Still not happy with them being a team?
No.
That's all we need to say about that. Josh is not happy about them still being a team. Very Kane-like gear. Something to note while I'm looking at them. But that's pretty much it. Let's finish off this pay-per-view with whatever time we have left. Universal Champion Brock Lesnar defeating WWE Champion AJ Styles in a match. Not just a suplex factory, a match.
You knew it was going to be a decent match, because of AJ at the very least. But it was what it was.
I'd even argue that it was a good match. Not match of the night or something super impressive, but one of the better Brock Lesnar matches I've seen in a little while. And he looked like he cared a lot more. He was able to get in there and actually do some wrestling.
Probably because he didn't have to wrestle with Jinder.
Yeah, he's just happy. Like, I'll take anybody but him. I'll be fine. It's good. We're happy. But Jinder did challenge AJ Styles on Smackdown. I believe it's official. Yes, it is official for Clash of Champions. And then we can move on. Or give it back to Jinder for the Indian tour. One of the two.
Yeah, because unlike Clash of Champions comes after the Indian show.
Okay.
But unlike the Universal Championship, the WWE champions actually get a rematch when they lose the title.
Yeah, good point. I don't have any of the Universals.
Nope, not a single Universal champion has ever gotten a rematch after losing the title.
Finn vacated it, hasn't had another go. Kevin Owens dropped it to Goldberg, never had his, and then Goldberg dropped it to Lesnar and just disappeared from the face of the planet. Potato. I'm sure it's just a thing of circumstance. Finn will get his back at the Rumble, right?
No, I've heard it's been called off.
Yeah, so have I.
Because he's not over enough.
Boo. That's all I gotta say. Main event. Survivor Series 5-on-5 inter-brand elimination match. Had Team Raw lost, Kurt Angle would have been fired. Spectacular contestants in the match. Spectacular match between the lot. We'll just start from the start. Shinsuke Nakamura, first one out, 11 minutes in.
That's kind of a shocker.
I think it was shock of the match. I guess maybe some of the ending stuff, but Shinsuke going out so early was definitely unexpected.
Now, you know what would have been really the real shocker of the night there, though, if it had happened there? Braun being eliminated.
True. Yeah.
But Braun wasn't getting eliminated because what eliminated him last year had been released a week before the event.
Am I missing something? Do I have to go back into the history files to go figure out what eliminated him last time?
He got eliminated by James Ellsworth holding onto his feet so he couldn't re-enter the ring and got counted out.
Yep, I remember now. Would have been hilarious for him to show up. For me, John Cena was a bit of a standout in this match for all the wrong reasons. First of all, his refusal to wear the team colour, okay? Get the memo, show up in the right colour. Second of all, his sort of lack of anything. He eliminated Samoa Joe, but he was just there. And I guess he got to be eliminated by Kurt Angle, so we got a little bit of that history flaring up. But overall, relative disappointment from John Cena.
He may not have been around much to be able to plan things out, so they didn't do much with them.
True. It's always circumstances, I think. Braun Strowman gets 3 eliminations, 3 of 5. And then Pedigree, Triple H, Kurt Angle, Shane McMahon. Let's just say the end of the match happens. And then let's start trying to make sense of it. Because she's a tough one.
Yeah, we're definitely getting Triple H versus Kurt Angle.
Mm-hmm. If that wasn't already obvious to people.
Yeah.
So essentially, Triple H sort of temporarily teams up with Shane, takes out Kurt Angle with a pedigree, lets him be eliminated, makes it look like he's teaming up with Shane McMahon, which makes Braun do some complex math in his head, or at least the meme makes it look like it. Great meme, best meme ever. And then Triple H pedigrees Shane and wins the match for his team, because he was never really a turncoat, he just wanted to finish off Shane himself and really hates Kurt, I guess. And then Braun Strowman murders him. He just puts his hand around his throat and squeezes.
Braun is even more of a lone wolf than the lone wolf United States champion is.
Yeah.
You're playing with fire if you team with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see. I really liked how it ended for Braun, and I guess there was a whole lot of matchups and things mentioned through here. You know, it casted Shane McMahon's leadership into doubt, with Daniel Bryan seeming to take a more prominent role on SmackDown. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Somehow, someway, we covered it all, and that's all we got time for this week. It's been great talking to you.
Bye-bye.
You visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/Wrestling Radio, and our Twitter page, twitter.com/Wrestling Radio. We'll see you next week.